think much of that. It looks a very common piece of furniture," said the father, looking at it all around. "But," cried the boy, "it's a magic table, and when I say, 'Table, table, spread yourself,' it is at once covered with good things, which will make your mouth water. Invite all our friends in, and you will see what a feast there will be." When the guests had all arrived, he fetched his table, and placing it in the middle of the room, he commanded it to spread itself. But the table remained just like any other table, which takes no notice when you speak to it. And the poor lad saw at once that somebody had robbed him. Of course the guests thought he was an impostor and laughed at him, and went home without any feast, to the poor carpenter's shame. So the tailor had to take up his needle again and stitch away as fast as ever, and the boy had to leave home again and work for another carpenter. Meantime the second son had taken service with the miller, and when he learnt everything his master said, "Because you have worked for me faithfully, I will give you this ass, which, though it can neither draw nor carry, is a clever beast nevertheless." "What can it do then?" said the boy. "Why, if you only pat it and cry 'Brickly bit,' gold will drop out of its mouth like potatoes into a sack," replied the miller. "That is grand," said the boy. So thanking his master, he started on his journey. Now he was rich, for he only had to say "Brickly bit," and a torrent of gold pieces came out of the ass's mouth, and were there for the picking up. Wherever he went he ordered the best of everything, and the more he had to pay for it the better he was pleased. Soon he got tired of wandering about the world, and thought he would like to go home and see his father, whose anger had, no doubt, died down by this time. Or if not, it certainly would when he saw what a rich ass he had brought home with him. Now it chanced that he came to the very same inn where his brother had lost his table, and when the landlord came out and offered to take the animal to the stable, he said, "No, I will take him myself, for I want to see where he goes." The landlord was surprised, but thought that one who would look after his own beast must be a poor man. But the boy, putting his hand in his pocket, drew out 2 gold pieces and ordered the best the house contained. The landlord was very much astonished indeed, and ran and fetched him the best of everything. When he had eaten his fill, the boy asked what more he owed, and the landlord, being a greedy man, said that 2 more gold pieces would pay the bill. The youth put his hand in his pocket and found it empty. "Wait a moment, my friend, and I will fetch some gold," he said carelessly, and picking up the tablecloth he went out. The landlord didn't at all understand what was going on, but being inquisitive he crept out after the youth, and as the stable door was bolted carefully, the landlord had to glue his eye to a hole in the wall. Then he saw the boy spread out the cloth and say, "Brickly bit," and immediately gold began to drop out of the ass's mouth in showers, as if it were hailing. "Thunder and lightning!" gasped the landlord, running back to the house. "Did one ever see the like of this? Why, that is the finest and fattest purse I ever set eyes on, and I must see what I can do to obtain it." Later in the evening the lad paid his bill and went to bed. But when he was well asleep, the wicked landlord crept into the stable and took away the ass, and tied up an ordinary one in its stead. The next day the youth went on his way with the ass, which he never noticed had been changed, and arrived at midday at his father's house. His father was delighted to see him again, and asked what trade he had learnt. The boy told him that he was a miller. "And what have you brought home with you?" said the old man. "Only an ass," replied the boy. "Ah, my lad, you had better have brought a goat. We have asses enough about already." "Perhaps so," retorted the boy, "but wait till you see what this ass can do. I have only to say 'Brickly bit,' and gold drops out of his mouth in heaps, Just send for all your friends and we will make them rich in a trice." "Indeed," said the tailor, "that is not a bad idea. If what you say is true I shall never need to do any more tailoring," and he hurried out and gathered all his friends in. They arrived in high excitement, as you may be sure, and the youth bade them stand in a circle while he spread out a cloth under the ass's head. "Now," he said proudly, "listen to me," and he called "Bricklebrit." But nothing happened, and it seemed that the ass could not coin gold after all, for it is not an easy thing to do, as you will agree. The poor youth was very rueful, for he saw that some one had robbed him, and he was obliged to apologize to the guests, who only sneered and jeered at him and departed as poor as they came. So the tailor had to take up his needle once more and stitch away as fast as ever, and the boy had to go and work for another miller. Meantime the third son had apprenticed himself to a turner. But it takes a long time to learn to be a turner, and he was still with his master when his brother sent a message to tell him how they had fared, and all about the wicked landlord who had robbed them of their precious belongings. Time went on, and soon he had learned everything, and he took leave of his master, who gave him a sack, saying, "In the sack lies a stick." "I will take the sack gladly," said the youth, "for it will be handy. But of what use is the stick, except to make the sack heavier?" "This is the use of the stick. If you want to punish anything at any time, you have only to say, 'Come forth, stick,' and the stick will slip out of the sack and lay about your enemy's shoulders in such a lively fashion that he will be as quiet as a tortoise for days afterwards, and it will not cease beating till you say, 'Stop, stick,' and into the sack." The youth thanked him and went on his way, and when any rouge interfered with him, he only had to cry, "Come forth, stick," and out it came and gave them a sound thrashing until he told it to stop, and then it slipped back so quickly that nobody saw where it went. One night he arrived at the very inn where his brothers had been deceived, and putting his sack on the table, he began to boast of all the curious things he had seen. "Yes," he said, "I have even known of a table which covers itself with food and wine in a twinkling. But that is not all, for I have seen an ass which coins gold and scores of other wonderful things besides. But when all is said and done, none have compared with what I carry in my sack." The landlord opened his round eyes, saying, "I wonder what it is," and he thought to himself, "The sack must be full of precious stones. I must get hold of it, for all good luck runs in threes, and there is no reason why I should not succeed this time as I have done before." As soon as it was time to go to bed, the youth lay down on a bench and pillowed his head on his sack, and when the landlord thought he was fast asleep, he came creeping softly to his side and pulled ever so gently at the sack, to see if he could exchange it for another which he had already in his hand. However, the boy was only waiting for this, and suddenly he called out, "Come forth, stick." Immediately it sprang out and beat the landlord right merrily. The landlord howled for mercy, but the stick only hit the faster, till at last the rouge fell down exhausted. "Now," said the turner, ordering the stick to return to its bag, "if you do not deliver up to me the magic table and the lucky ass, the stick shall begin again." "No, no," gasped the wretched man. "I will give them up if you will only spare me." "I will pardon you if you keep your word," said the youth, "but beware if you try to deceive me." Early next morning the turner went on his way with the ass and the table to his father's house. When he arrived his father was overjoyed to see him, and asked him what trade he had learnt. "Dear father," he said, "I have become a turner." "That is a difficult trade. And what have you brought home with you?" "A sack and a stick, and a very valuable stick too," said the son. "What! cried the old man. "A stick! Why, you can cut a